Ooh, I love to have my spectacles on, that's right. But I can't. Welcome to my show. I come at you every single day almost. From a park, like a hobo. Go easy. I always start my show a little early. I got up a little late. I had 2 coffees instead of 1. I couldn't sleep. I swear. It's, I don't know, I guess it's about 10 o'clock. I could start checking my other device. Trying not to get too many people in the background here, but that's all right. Regardless, we got a lot to talk about today, and I want to talk a little bit about our news feeds, right? Like I said, if you're on 2 sides of the aisle, you're not going to be receiving the same feed as the other person. And it just seems to me, with a lot of this misinformation and disinformation, they don't seem to know the difference between one or the other. You'll have to look them up yourself. There's misinformation, there's disinformation. What's the difference, really? One is, they say it intentionally misleading, and then the other is like, oopsie, right? And so this is part of your schizophrenic future. Like, I could be talking about something, information that I got from a quote-unquote legitimate source. Now, don't forget, we come up with our own nomenclature here. I came up with Media Deep Blue. That's right. Media Deep Blue is really untraceable, untrackable sources of news and information that appear to be memes, okay? Instead of like actual headlines, because that's what they are. That's what we've been reduced to, and that's what we're talking about here. But we could be get information from the same source. It would be a PPP, public-private partnership source, and I could get different information about the same topic as you. That's right. This actually started recently in the 2020 era, and it just seems to me that with the information that's out there, it's left up to us to have to decipher this information. Okay, like I said, when I listened to Mark Zuckerberg on the Lex Friedman show, okay, you gotta sit there and you gotta suffer through that. And he's talking about this, that, and the other thing. Okay? He was mentioning the people, you either have an engineer or you have a manager, people in quote-unquote management. Well, what is he really talking about? But what I did is I listened to him say something about him releasing a business plan, a white paper business plan, and so I immediately looked that up, and that is in March of this year, March 2023. And when you look at that business plan, he says right in there, he wants you actually falling in love with your device, or falling in love with the app of your choice. Apparently he created his own Twitter now. If you guys want something jejune, boring, and usual to the type, go to somebody else's show. You're not going to get that here. What I use is my discernment, and I also tap into my own subconscious through a type of freeform jazz odyssey. I'm sorry, I'm a Spinal Tap man. What do you want? I'm a Christopher Guest man. It's not something that Elon Musk brought up as well. So I use this type of free association, and again, we don't do that on every single show. What I mainly am here to talk about is the television series called Linoleum Blown Apart, and this is evidence of your schizophrenic future. Now, when I started investigating this, I realized within this last year, I was able to come out here, and I wasn't being subjected to any of my social media. I got rid of Twitter and I got rid of Facebook, okay? And I was able to do this free association. It's not so free. It actually cost quite a bit. Almost cost me my life. And then I was able to start thinking about where I was going. I had my songs that I wrote in the 1980s, and I had a song about Stanley Kubrick because I remembered how much I love cinema. And then from being in a punk rock band, I went out to New York City because I wasn't gonna allow people to, you know, shit talk me, define me, put me down, and not support my band. I left. Go F yourself. And I feel that exact same way to this day. Like I said, anytime, anywhere for these phonies. In case you don't know, one of these guys from the 1980s punk rock scene used my likeness in a murder article, and he will get got. Make no mistake about it. I don't care who his mommy is. So, this is what I'm talking about as far as the schizophrenic future. You have, right? What I was doing was I was tapping into this kind of Stanley Kubrick thing. Then, through this free association, I'm not kidding, this is the order of events. I started thinking about, well, why didn't Marlon Brando, the world's greatest actor, ever work with Stanley Kubrick? Then I find out what? Through the Aggieverse, which is my natural algorithm when you're not being Cinderfella affected, that he did. That he set up One-Eyed Jacks. Take your guess at what a One-Eyed Jack is. It's a movie about revenge. And he gets revenge by deflowering a young lady. Right? During the Wild, Wild West, right? And that was something that Marshall McLuhan was talking about. He's like, why are we watching movies about things that happened 100 and 200 years ago? Well, I know it's because that they're trying to reinvent history, more than likely, right? Because you have this notion. And so I started thinking about Stanley Kubrick, and I had a couple ideas. I've have numerous ideas. You can always take a look at my writing. It's under my name. My name's Gordon Douglas Eisen, from Detroit, from New York. Where else was I from? I don't know. You can look it up yourself. You can background check people, and you can cancel them if you want. Apparently they canceled me, but you see me. I'm from the BC era before computers. You got to kill me to cancel me, because I keep going. So I was thinking about this, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because I did a series of videos in 2018, and I was talking about working on Peacemaker, and Peacemaker had Nicole Kidman. And right here on the show, I was able to deduce that when I worked on this film, Peacemaker, which I don't have any credit for, apparently I worked on A Gun for Jennifer, but I remember very little about it. I didn't create that IMDb page or whatever. Like I said, you're not really responsible for too much of what goes up on social media about you. I don't really care. So anyway, I was thinking about this, and I was like, yeah, when I picked up Nicole Kidman's luggage with a Teamster, of course. I told that story before. You'll have to go back in time and look at it. As a matter of fact, I told it right over here at the Starbucks. I only drink one Starbucks now. Tastes so good. I actually go to the store and buy powdered espresso and make my own Starbucks now. In case you don't know, I'm homeless. I live out on the streets of LA, and I do this show every day. I don't ask you for money. What I'm doing is I'm writing a television series, and I'm going to tell you about that right now. So I pick up Nicole Kidman's luggage. Not Nicole Kidman. We picked up her luggage, and she had an exorbitant amount of luggage. They had kids. She was married to Tom Cruise. And one day I was taking the dailies back to Duarte, and the negatives back to Duarte, and I went upstairs, and there was Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise. Of course, Tom Cruise was smiling. This was a story that I never told anybody, okay? Because basically it never came up. Because after I went back to Detroit and I started a new band, not my old band, the Grievance Committee, a new band called Linoleum Blown Apart. Nobody seemed to give a shit. All they seemed to give a shit about was an incident, a violent domestic violence incident in my life. And apparently that defines me as a person. Okay, cool, good. I don't need to define people. I take them how they treat me, not how they've treated somebody else. Right? That's your business. And these are people that I've known for 30 and 40 years. And then, well, we'll get into that later. So anyway, so I started developing this idea when I got away from these idiots in Michigan. They were actually targeting me. These are what I call Fed rats. And if you do a FOIA request on my name, you'll find out who some of these Fed rats are. I did mention them before. That's why they used my likeness on a murder article. And once you can trace all these people back, you'll be able to crack this egg open in the Aggieverse. So I started developing this idea, and I'm like, well, what about the idea of a band who's obsessed with a film director, the way I was obsessed with Stanley Kubrick. And I was like, holy shit, I was bringing Nicole Kidman's luggage over so she could work on Stanley Kubrick's last film. Okay? I figured all this out after I had put together the narrative for Linoleum Blown Apart. And so the narrative is this, and I'll talk about it extensively here, but obviously it's about Napoleon. It's about a kid who's a punk rocker who finds out when he's in a band called Urban Upset, he finds out that he has the same birthday as Napoleon. And he goes, wait, whoa. Let's start a whole new fucking band, right? And that's what he did, right? And by the way, like I said, I think I said it in another episode, I think Nirvana's single instead of Heart Shaped Box should have been Serve the Servants. It was a much better song. I'll stand by that. I'm the kind of guy, I actually write songs. Not a lot of people know this. A lot of people think they can. They cannot, okay? A lot of people are master musicians. They cannot write a song. I don't know why, okay? But I write the kind of songs that'll put hair up on your arm. You have to, it's really tough to do. You have to find that hook. And if you listen to the songs listed under Linoleum Blown Apart, you will find that hook. So again, we're talking about the schizophrenic future, and I'm thinking about Napoleon. The name of the series is called Linoleum Blown Apart. Now you have Steven Spielberg. Oh yeah, real hard name to remember. And I think Spielberg, doesn't that mean Lookout Mountain? And you have the guy who did Blade Runner, Tony Scott's brother, Ridley Scott. So you have Stanley Kubrick, or I'm sorry, Steven Spielberg doing Stanley Kubrick's script for Napoleon. It's free online. You could look it up. You could read it. I read it as part of my prep for Linoleum Blown Apart. Okay? And you also have Ridley Scott just doing Napoleon. Okay? I didn't know any of this. I don't read Movie Line magazine. I don't read Film Comment anymore. I used to read that stuff years ago. Okay? I came up with a kid. I was talking about him yesterday, a guy named Andre who was part of Film Threat magazine. He's part of this contingent who like turned on me. They're completely programmed by their AI. They don't even know it. That's how dumb they are. And the reason I was able to create this was because I got off of social media. Now, take a look at what's happening with Joaquin Phoenix. I often talk about River Phoenix. I remember River Phoenix as an actor, people like Keanu Reeves, who actually inspire guys like me to get into acting. Guys like early Johnny Depp, guys like Mickey Rourke, guys like Bruce Willis. Okay, and again, all this is lost in time. You know, I'm like watching a show yesterday, or I'm watching something online, and they said, what's the new Gary Oldman film? I can't remember what it is now, but they're like, it has Kenneth Branagh. Oh, it's the Christopher Nolan. And it has Kenneth Branagh and Gary Oldman, and they say, oh, it has an all-star cast, Cillian Murphy. Like, those are the three actors that I know. If it's an all-star cast, I don't know any of the other actors. That's how old I am. But with my experience, I'm getting ready to tell you about, and my project, I'm not worried about it. I don't really care. I don't have to be 27 years old, and I don't have to work in the quote-unquote business for 30 years. I have the utmost confidence in my project, in myself, and anything I do in writing a song. We're going to get... Okay. So, take a look at Napoleon, right? It has Joaquin Phoenix. Like I said, I'm a huge River Phoenix guy. River Phoenix was able to do so many films. I think he did 2 films with Sidney Poitier. Amazing stuff. He worked with the same guy who worked with Ben Affleck and the other guy, the guy who has a love affair with Jimmy Kimmel. You know who I'm talking about, the Martian guy, right? So I can't remember his name. One of his songs is on one of my playlists. So please check out my playlist. Please check out my community section. I don't appreciate having my likeness used on a murder article and someone in the punk rock scene in Detroit. And I'm going to see to it that you pay for that. You're going to pay for that. Okay? And I'm going to see to it, like I said, until my dying breath. I don't take this thing too lightly. Like I said, I've been around numerous murders in my life. And I don't think it's funny. And I don't think these fake, phony Geraldo skins that I call them, throwing their weight around, is a threat in any way. You know, these guys, they take their cue from the media just like anybody else. So, anyways, I was talking about the schizophrenic future. Now, take a look at Joaquin Phoenix. And by the way, I think his sisters, they have a band, they have a podcast. I've listened to that before. Take a look at Joaquin Phoenix, guys. So, he's Napoleon. Okay? So, what other movie is Joaquin Phoenix in? It's called Bruce something, where he plays a completely neurotic person. I should have looked it up. I'm very sorry. I could probably look it up right now. Okay? We don't have to. On my show, you're going to have to do some work for yourself. You have to do some work, man. It's called Bruce's something or other. Wee-ho, Wi-Fi, wee-ho, Wi-Fi. See, and it appears magically. Yeah. That's all you got to do. You guys know how it goes? Wee-ho, Wi-Fi, wee-ho, Wi-Fi. There you go. Look, you got wee-ho, Wi-Fi. Yeah. Like I said, I don't have a phone number. I don't have a bank account. I don't have anything. Just me, myself, and Ison. That's right. That's my name, Gordon Douglas Ison. Don't you forget it. Yeah. I swear, I only had one coffee. I swear. Oh my God, it was the worst. I couldn't sleep last night. Oh, they took it away. Sorry. I guess I got to do it again. One more time. One more time with feeling. So let's take a look at the Joaquin Phoenix film. I can't remember what it is. Joaquin Phoenix. Let's see what it is. Beau is Afraid. Okay, Beau is Afraid. Okay, so this is what's at issue here. This is our schizophrenic future. And this is a clear indication of it. Now, take a look at what I was talking about yesterday. I was talking about what? Oppenheimer, Atomic City, and JFK, and the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is a recurrence. And that's how I'm deeming this to be. I talk about recurrences in my own life, mistakes that I've made, sins of the father. I talk about all this stuff. And guess what? I was talking about all this stuff in 2018. Oh, we'll talk about 2018, pal. That's when the article came out, written by some mama's boy from Royal Joke, Michigan. Oh, yeah. Anyway, so take a look at Beau is Afraid and take a look at Napoleon. Is the magnificent, wonderful, amazing Napoleon, who I'm using in my project, just loosely, okay? But it's kind of good because right here, in the belly of the beast, I'm in Hollywood, and we have that apparatus right here. There it is. Ridley Scott already did it. We have the costumes, we have everything. But when we shoot Bonaparte Bon Ami, okay, it's not going to resemble Joaquin Phoenix's Napoleon. It's not going to resemble Steven Spielberg's Spielberg, what do I owe you? As I was like, I used to drink out of a Jaws cup a long time ago. You guys remember those episodes? I don't think you do. Anyway, that's when I first started this podcast. Was in a motel room in my underwear in Little Detroit. There's a video still up. Please check it out. You can check the timeline and see. So we're talking about the schizophrenic future. This is stuff that's been talked about by these modern thinkers like Deleuze, Mark Land. I discovered another guy named Mark Fisher who's so... He was such a heavy thinker. It was like, Socrates. You just kind of like, you're tired of this recurrence happening over again. And he could kind of see where we were heading as a society. And it kind of gets overwhelming. right? So that's why I don't give you medical tips on this show. If you want to smoke a joint or go see a doctor, or smoke a joint with your doctor, that's what I recommend. Smoke a joint with your doctor, then go ahead. I don't care. That's not what this show is about. This show is about the creative process. And I've been nothing but the most creative person that I could be within the means that I have to be it, right? That's the same thing that I'm doing right now. I'm doing whatever I can within the means that I have to convey my message, right? And so I talk about this a little bit. I talk about tapping into the Eggyverse. Why? Because other musicians, like Paul McCartney, kind of say that. These things come to you after a while. Once you sit there and you're hammering out, you're working on some, I call it a hook. Okay? Oh, I guess I am a fish, right? I call it a hook. And new fish, I meant to say. And once you find this hook, you know, you're noodling all day long, and that's what I would do as well. Even though I had no success, I had no support. What do I care? What are you going to do? Stop me from writing a song? Right? You can't. So I would noodle and noodle and noodle, and then you sleep, right? And sleep is kind of like very similar to inebriation. It's like annihilation, obliviation, inebriation. Okay, so if you get inebriated, you could wake up with this quote-unquote epiphany. You can have an epiphany because you could be like, wow, I got really loaded last night, but you know what? I kind of was thinking about this thing, and I kind of went off, and then I passed out, and I woke up, and I'm still thinking about it. And you could do the same thing in a dream state. And again, I'm not recommending that you take drugs or not take drugs. It's your body. Do whatever you want to. I started taking drugs at a very young age. And then I found out that they were using a neurological weapon, and my wife was involved in this weapon. And what this weapon is shock therapy. And why do you think in the hospitals they got rid of shock therapy? Because it's worse. It makes it worse for you. But this is a police-issued weapon, and you have to be aware of this weapon. If you're feeling strange, you're feeling out of sorts, right? Take whatever responsible move it is that you feel you need. But what I found out is that I didn't need to go see a doctor. I needed these people to stop using the weapon on me. And it started in Royal Oak, Michigan. That's what I'm trying to tell you. With a bunch of fed rats. And that's a story for another time. So we're talking a little bit about this schizophrenic future. And it's the normalization of getting different information from different sources. And I think a good template for that, if you guys are into the arts, I know that I am. Like I said, I talk about the Geraldo skins all the time. These guys are a bunch of phonies. They take their cue from the media. And when you're handed, these are your only options. Here they are. Don't think of an elephant in your pajamas. Here they are. These are your options right here. I got them for you. Then you're not going to really be seeking any new options out, are you? You're going to be like, oh, okay, that sounds good to me. Right? Sounds great. And I never settled for that. But unfortunately, I was drinking in a lot of bars where a lot of people do. These were the same bars that my father drank in. And through this technique, this cognitive therapy, this chaos magic that we're using right here, we are willing this thing into existence. I know I sound like I'm schizophrenic, but I'm not. I can actually get into detail, a lot more detail about this technique that we're using right here. I call it surfing the Eggyverse, but it's tough when you're electronically harassed, constantly, nonstop. And that's what a lot of people do. Like I said, they'll use a neurological weapon on you, they'll electronically harass you, and then they'll harass you on the ground. Okay? And so, I don't know, I just find it really sad. I grew up in the BC era before computers, and again, it's looking like they're using the exact same techniques that I came up with, being around in my neighborhood. That I left my neighborhood and I go to downtown Detroit, and I think I'm around all these intellectuals, right? And I think I'm bettering my life, And now look, 30 years later, they turn out to be the biggest pieces of trash, bigger than anyone that I've ever been locked up in. And I name these people my name. You can go back in time and check it out for yourself. You could do a FOIA request on my name. I urge you to do so. Life is a mystery. We have to figure these things out. And I'm hoping to grow this channel, but if I don't, I don't. You're not gonna stop me. You gotta kill me to stop me, and I double dog dare you. So, take a look at Joaquin Phoenix. Take a look at him as the magnificent Napoleon. And what's this other one? Beau is Afraid? Now take a look at him as Beau is Afraid. Is Napoleon afraid of anything? What is going on? I'm sorry, are we supposed to, obviously he's an actor, I get that. I talk about acting all the time here. I'm actually a trained actor. But I'm telling you, how are we supposed to really fall into this character? That's the beauty of it. Take a look at somebody like Sterling Hayden, okay? We talk about, pardon me, but your bombs are dropping on my head. Right? How I Learned to Love the Bomb, Dr. Strangelove. I talk about it quite a bit. Look at Sterling Hayden. Now, we didn't know too much about him. He was actually very left-wing. He was a left-wing person. He didn't like the quote-unquote establishment order. And don't forget, the Democrats that my mother came up with, okay, these same Democrats were about the working class. Now, you can see the Democratic Party is being embraced by who? People like the Kardashians. I'm down here with the Kardashians, not up there with the Kardashians. You understand? I'm not in that median income. And you can see the median income of the left is actually going up. And then the median income of people on the right are going what? Good old boys club. Hey, I'm going to drive my pickup truck and I'm going to be rooting and tooting, right? On this show, we walk the middle path, okay? Because I guarantee you that if you subscribe to everything that your party is doling out there and you don't disagree with any of it, you might as well put on a beret and change your name to Shay, okay? Because you're just a sycophant, you're a toady, you're a nabob, and you're not really using your discernment, okay? We're not really about politics here. This show is for entertainment purposes only. I know it's not very entertaining. Sorry. I promise it will be. I'm doing a little bit of heady episodes, okay? I'm doing some different stuff now. Take a look at my channel. You can see I put new stuff up on the playlist all the time. We're taking a look at Joaquin Phoenix. Now I understand he is an actor, okay? He comes across as very method. His brother definitely was. When his brother worked with Gus Van Sant, it was really fantastic. It was one of the most amazing things you ever want to see. Really interesting stuff. You can go online and you can see some outtakes from, I think that's one of his last films. I don't know what his last film. Oh, I know what his last film was. He was supposed to steal a woman. It was like Knife in the Water. It was very like Polanski's Knife in the Water. It was his last film, but he was out in the desert and a car breaks down between a couple, and since the husband is feckless and he can't really fix the car or do anything, they come across this character, River Phoenix, and he can seemingly do anything. And obviously he sweeps the woman off her feet, and then the two men have a tirade over her, right? It's a love triangle. I like thrillers. That's really what I like the most. And what we're talking about today, I hope it's not too windy. What we're talking about today is a schizophrenic future. Now, I understand, we all know Joaquin Phoenix is an actor. He's just portraying these people. But how am I supposed to really buy into either one of his characters? How am I supposed to buy into Beau is Afraid? I think he's more of a Beau is Afraid character. I'm sorry, maybe I'm a bias about the great man Napoleon, this great figure and this great film that this great director Stanley Kubrick wasn't able to make. I can't remember his name. Steven Spielberg. Spielberg? What do I owe you? He's gonna make it. I think Steven Spielberg actually made AI, which was something that Stanley Kubrick was going to make. I told you I worked with Nicole Kidman and I was around Tom Cruise when they moved to New York City in order to work on Stanley Kubrick's very last film. Listen, I love Stanley Kubrick, but what do you want me to do? Not call bullshit on some of his treatment of his actors? Shelley Long, not call bullshit on doing something 38 and 39 times? Now, I understand. I believe that Fincher is kind of like the new Kubrick. I believe that he's able to do this. And now, the reason why Stanley Kubrick was actually doing this was the same technique used in American Graffiti. Now, I can never remember that guy's name. The guy from Star Wars? I never remember his name either. American Graffiti. You guys are going to laugh. Shut up. It's what do you want? Oh, they took away my Wee-ho Wi-Fi, Wee-ho Wi-Fi, Wee-ho Wi-Fi, Wee-ho Wi-Fi. Let's see what happens. Ooh. Thanks, I think. God, it's right on the tip of my brain. American Graffiti. Oops. You guys are going, it's so-and-so. Ah! All right. So, American Graffiti. All right. So, what's his name? It's a TXS 1138. George Lucas, anyway, sorry. THX 1138, right? The same director, okay? These are groundbreaking films. As a matter of fact, my television series is about, and don't let me forget to talk about Michael Imperioli. My series is about music as well. And so you have American Graffiti and you have George Lucas, and you listen to the interviews and they said, well, actually, I flubbed my line, and then all of a sudden George Lucas is like, okay, we got it. Okay, so they're looking for these little points of improvised dialogue. Now, I was checking out Michael Imperioli. He's on something called Lips, Scott Lips. I don't know these people. I don't know how they get their own podcast, and I don't know why. I think he wrote for Spin or something like that. Like, I haven't read Spin or the Rolling Stone magazine since, like, they were still making Cream magazine. And don't forget, Cream magazine was from Detroit, okay? I talk about Detroit. One of my songs is literally called We're From Detroit, Not Birmingham. We hate opening up for Son of Sam, who was another band at the time. It was an Easter egg. This was something that I was showing that these guys were my brother band because Robert Rebant was in that band. He's allegedly dead now. This is part of their LARPing and targeting. I wouldn't even know if the guy's dead or not. They were running game through the Facebook app really hard. This is what I was talking about earlier with, that's why Elon Musk made it open source, is because you get these Fed rats in there. They can Cinderfella affect you by sending you just bizarre stuff. Frances Haugen even said that they could use the algorithm that's ascribed to you to quote unquote indoctrinate you. Okay? You have to look into this stuff yourself. I don't care about social media. Okay? I'm not so sure I'm going to be really getting on anything connected to, I'm not saying it's Mark Zuckerberg himself because a lot of people work there, but it seems to me like I would be more apt to be on an open source platform or a different platform. In case you don't know, I was canceled or whatever they call it. I was targeted and blah, blah, blah. And like I said, I'll always say it until the day I die, you forgot to kill me. Okay? I don't care about cancel culture because I grew up in the BC era before computers. So you can see this as far as capturing these like real moments, okay, in cinema, in time. Like I said, David Fincher will do the same thing where he'll do like 17 takes of something. And he wants you to kind of like be playing with your pencil and then all of a sudden you drop it. It's this beautiful natural moment, okay? And so only the director is going to be able to kind of see this, right? Only the director is going to be able to understand what he wants. It's not, as an actor, it's not your responsibility. It's your responsibility to be in that moment. So like I said, I was watching Michael Imperioli on Lips. I don't know. I think it's called Lips. I don't know. I'm not going to look it up. You guys look it up. And so it was a great interview. I think it was over an hour. And so Michael Imperioli was one of these guys. I saw him one time in New York City, and I knew who he was. I'm talking about before The Sopranos. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. A lot of people can't go back in time. They don't have this ability to go back in time, okay? They just don't. Because everything is so myopic. It's in the moment, right? And it's just like, oh, what's new? I call it the new thing. Okay, it's based on a book that I read. It's called The New Thing. It's the same writer as The Big Short. YouTube exclusive, yay! You can watch The Big Short for free on YouTube right now. I highly recommend you do. It's a great film. It's an ensemble cast, just like I'm talking about with American Graffiti. Okay, just like I was talking about before. I really like these ensemble casts. Okay. So what we're talking about a little bit is the schizophrenic future that we're going into. There is no doubt. You're going to be receiving information from the same source, but this gal over here is receiving different information than me. Why is that? Okay? And so the information that she's getting is coming from her AI. And I believe, nefariously, yes I do, and I will make that claim right here on the show, having been victimized past tense by shock therapy, which they made illegal years ago because it's harmful, but now they're giving it around to every single cop, that it's coming from your AI, and it's called confirmation bias. It's delivering you news and information, and it's confirming usually all of your fears. Now, look what we know about yellow journalism. Look what happened to me with some mama's boy from Royal Oak, Michigan, using my likeness on a murder post, on a murder article, and look when it comes out. Oh, 2018. Okay, so I'm with my wife, I'm with a guy from my band, and her skanky friend. We're all hanging out in Wisconsin. Everything's great in 2016. 2 years later, my wife's gone. They crushed me with an algorithm. It's coming through the Facebook app. Guys who I played in bands with know all about this because they're Fed rats, and they run with police officers too. Like I said, these Geraldo skin phonies, right? You see, I'm old enough to know where this stuff comes from. Okay? You understand? I remember things from the 1970s, guys. In my book, Two-Legged Animal, We're Not Animals. I talked about this yesterday. I talk about things that I remember when I was 2. I talk about when the girl told me to steal an ice cream. What do little kids do? They do what they're told. And when they know something was wrong, like I did, I went and told on myself. That's the first thing I did. Hey, there's something wrong here. I have an ice cream and I have the money for the ice cream. I wasn't stupid. And I was able to deduce that the same girl across the street told me to run across the street when I was showed how to cross at a traffic light. In case you don't know, my sister was 5 years old, and she would go to the store as a 5-year-old. And she would cross the street, and she would go buy groceries, and she would bring them home. 5 years old in the city of Detroit at 6 Mile Lane, Chalmers. 5-year-old. So that's why I can't take anything away from my family. I can be critical of very certain things, and I don't mind talking about them because I've transcended them. That's why I do talk about them. And I try to put it into context of something creative. And you can take these really crappy things that happen to you, and you can turn them into something great, right? But it's a little bit difficult when you've got all these Fed rats breathing down your neck, and people going around saying you're canceled, and people going around who you've known for 30 and 40 years, quote unquote, ganging up on you. These people are phonies, and I will call them out every single time. These are people that I know. These are people in my own family. It's truly, truly sad. So what did I do? I came right here to the belly of the beast. Yes! I developed what you're going to watch, which is going to be a punk rock television show. And just like all the kids from Generation Z or whatever, I don't know, I'm boomer cusp. What do you want from me? It's going to go from punk rock into rap. And it's going to go from a director who is inspired by who? Not the reincarnation of Napoleon, who isn't going to be anything like Joaquin Phoenix. I understand you're an actor. I get it. I understand you can play a million different roles. I get it. Okay, congratulations. But how are you going to be Beau is Afraid and the great man Napoleon? How is this going to happen? How are you going to pull this off? I mean, it's interesting for me to see, and I get passionate about it. Why? Because I'm a passionate guy. And at least I'm not being artificially triggered. I talked about that yesterday. These are mood manipulators, and it's shock therapy. And it's harmful to people. And they have no business using it. And people on the left are saying, police brutality, police brutality. What could be more brutal than giving a cop this weapon? What could be more brutal than putting you down like an animal? Why did Mark Fisher commit suicide? And he's the one telling us, look at us. They're reducing us to animals. What did I talk about with early man? When early man started building their first houses, it's like, I don't have to live in a cave. I could chop down a tree. I could put this thing together. Man, hands, human, woman, hands and a womb, the pleroma, the female aspect of religion, holding this entire universe together in her womb. And God being like, wait, whoa, easy. I thought I'm the king of the castle. What are you talking about? Okay, so these are some heady concepts that, yeah, we can have fun with it, and you know, we can talk about these things, and it's okay, right? I got friends who are morons. What are you gonna do, right? I've got friends who are both sides of the aisle. What are you going to do? Milius, yes! I wanted to talk about John Milius a little bit. I wanted to talk about the fact that, what did John Milius bring up in Big Wednesday? Big Wednesday was free for a little while on YouTube. I'm YouTube exclusive. I have every right to be here. You want to shadow ban me? You want to bury me? That's okay. You have to literally, physically bury me to stop me, okay? I got a lot to say. You can see it. And, in case you don't know, I really didn't say too much growing up. I kept my mouth shut, I stayed in the library, and I kept my head down. Because if I stuck it up too high, I was worried I'd get it lopped off. So let's talk about this a little bit. Michael Imperioli is a person, like I said, I saw him in New York, and he talked about some of the stuff that he worked on, and he ended up working on something and they had to cut it out. It just didn't give a very naturalistic performance. But then, because he's Italian American and they were looking for Italian Americans, he was able to get that part as Spider in Goodfellas. Okay, so he talked about that a little bit. And he talked about Martin Scorsese's ability to kind of work with his actors. Hey, what makes you feel comfortable? And Michael Imperioli's like, hey man, you know what makes me feel comfortable? Is moving this bar around so I could kind of turn and do my line so I'm not cranking my neck. And he's like, okay. And he calls over the people and the prop department and they spin it around. Okay? Yesterday I was talking a little bit about set design. Okay? Set design is really important. I was ripping on this new John Hamm movie. Well, what is it? It's being John Hamm instead of being John Malkovich. Like, what is this movie? I don't know what it is, and I'm not afraid to have a discussion about it. You know, I can call things out on my show. I'm not here to make friends or enemies. We're here to have a discussion. And this is what part of online culture that I can't really understand. When we're supposed to be, like, having these interesting discussions, what's happening instead? People are getting canceled. People are getting their voices trampled on. And what a lot of LGBT people don't understand is the fact that freedom of speech is what got them to the point that they are. It's what got them to the fore. Them meaning, you know, I hate to talk like a sociologist and a bureaucrat, but hey, everybody's doing it now. Got to join in the club, yeah. So anyway, so just to wrap it up a little bit, Michael Imperioli, that type of person, is going into my property, right? It's a character named Max, okay? And so there's a young girl named Roxy, okay? And she's one of the first to dress punk rock. And who her antithesis is Lenny from Linoleum Blown Apart. His name's Lionel because he is the lion. He's born on the same day as Napoleon, right? And her antithesis is going to be her nemesis. You know what, guys? I do a show every day. You gotta give me a break. It's gonna be JoJo, who is Josephine, right? Napoleon's Josephine. And so that who her antithesis is. And we can kind of see that this girl, Josephine, just like Napoleon, she's going to be more of a courtesan, right? I mean, you know, that's what the rumors were. And they're like, oh my God, did you hear? I mean, take a look at the great man Napoleon. You know, he's out there doing his battles. And what's going on in the paper? They're talking about all the scuttlebutt, right? Did his wife cheat on him? Oh my God. Well, you have this kind of thing. I bring up people like Kurt Cobain. I bring up people like Michael Imperioli because these archetypes are going into this project. And if you want to sue me or say, oh, this character is based on this character is based on what? This character is based on me. It's based on my life and everything that I've been through. And you don't have any idea how devastated I was just as a human being to have what happened to me happen. And then to find out that they're using gang tactics, that they're using neurological torture, just like in Clockwork Orange. Absolutely. I talk about it on every show. I'm telling you, man, this is what they're doing. They're manipulating people through their device, and they're saying you're mentally ill, and they'll send you somewhere. And what are they going to do when they squash your brain? They're going to say you're brain dead. And then what's next? They can put you to death. That's right. You got to start thinking bigger. You got to stop being so myopic and having your nose like a what? Like what? Holden Caulfield in Catcher in the Rye? You're a phony. Stop being a phony. That's what you are. That's why those books were so mind-blowing when they did that operation in using those books. And the murder of who? John Lennon. Who do I talk about on this show? I talk about these classic rock guys, right? That was very traumatic, okay? And so you have to be mindful of these little traumas, okay? So during these little traumas is when you're more susceptible to being taken advantage of. What was I talking about, guys? In my own house, a home wrecker came in after my father was with my mother for 10 years having children, came in, removed him from the house. My sister's 11 years old, and predators start calling on the phone. 11, 12 years old. Predators start calling us on the phone. When I got back to Detroit in 2004, I had people calling me on the phone. People that I didn't even know, because I was really messed up from living out on the streets, guys. I had PTSD, right? So I got hit by a car. I could make a joke about that. I got hit by a car, and so I had PTSD then. I lived out on the streets. It was rough. I told you I had trench foot. I write about it in my book, Two-Legged Animal. We're not animals. and I got PTSD again. Then I come back to Detroit, and I'm like, you're an adult. I'm 38 years old. And I'm like, all that old stuff is stupid. No. They set me up. They used this tech down in Hamtramck, Michigan. That's the first place where they used it. And I guarantee that this big mountain, and I told you, these guys that I've known in my band for 30 and 40 years turned on me at the same time in 2018. But all the way back in 2004 era, they told me that this guy died of a brain aneurysm. They told me some guy died of a brain aneurysm. And this is another thing that you could look into. Like I said, I don't know if Robert Reban is dead. I have no idea. They've been LARPing me so hard. They used this tech, and that was the entire time that Facebook was on my phone. It comes through the Facebook app, and it used to come through Twitter. And when I got sober, it was just, it was during COVID. I just became a weekend warrior, and I wasn't putting this together yet. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was getting ready to write another book. That's what I was going to do. And so I started taking notes, and I'm like, oh, some of my notes go towards the ascended descendancy. That's what I'm going to write instead of. But again, you don't know what you're going to write. I take tons of notes, and then I could sit down later and I can kind of expand on these notes, but I can't really do that when I'm homeless. It's a little bit more difficult, okay? So again, I came right here to the belly of the beast. I got a character that's like Michael Imperioli. I just watched something with Michael Imperioli yesterday, talking about being an actor. He actually got into music later, and that's the difference. Like, Michael Imperioli got into music, and he started a band, and he's actually gone on tour. I actually started this before I got into acting. And I got into it because of people like Joe Strummer, who started getting like small-time acting jobs as well, working with Jim Jarmusch, okay? And I like these natural moments. I know a lot about film. I know a lot about, I can never remember his name. I still can't remember his name. It's so bad. And it's really funny because George Lucas, David Fincher grew up right by George Lucas, okay? And so I like talking about, I don't really care. I talked a little bit about Star Wars yesterday. By the way, part of that Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, was written by Lee Brackett. She's a noir writer. I was reading one of her stories right here in the library. That's where I go usually every day. Right here in West Hollywood. Luckily, yesterday I was able to go get some food. I had some cold chili noodles with sesame. It's really good. Made it myself. Anyway, so I like these little moments in American graffiti. I like high-end concepts with low budgets like THX 1138. And all of this kind of stuff is going to go into my property known as Linoleum Blown Apart. I don't like the fact that they're using Joaquin Phoenix as Beau is Afraid, this feckless nothing man. And then you have this great man Napoleon that he's supposed to play. I believe this is part of this schizophrenic future that we're kind of going into. This person over here is receiving information from the same source, allegedly, as I am, but yet we're getting conflicting ideas. So what was I talking about? I was actually talking about driving for a living. So as a driver, what I would do when you find yourself in a bind, everyone's stepping on the gas, or they're racing towards the next traffic light, I take my foot off the gas. And so this is an ability that I was able to have, right? Now, again, most of the guys know me. They know me as a guy who plays music. And when I get playing music, I get really passionate. Take a look at my Acoustapunk episode right here on the show. I'm not afraid to put this stuff on video. I'm not really afraid of anything. Like I said, I have constant threats nonstop. I have threats coming through electronically. I get these morons stepping to me on the ground. Like, where are we going with this? Like I said, I grew up in the BC era before computers. I don't really care about this kind of stuff. But again, it was full tilt boogie on me. My ex-wife knew all about this. She knew what was going on, and this actually started in New York with the Cash for Smells crew. And Cash for Smells actually proves that gangs and police officers work together. That's your proof right there, right? That's why I was never worried about it. I was like, I'm just a creative person. Now, around the time that I got home from living on the streets in Las Vegas, I was suffering really hard from PTSD. And who started calling my house? A bunch of police officers and police-connected morons. These people are obsequious Philistines. They accept anything that's handed to them. They're pamphlet people. That's what I call them. Right? They're bobbleheads. What? We got the plausible deniability. They're just incredulous. Right? They protect mediocre talent. That's what they're there to do. They're like human pit bulls. Right? Are they? Are they NPCs? I think when you talk like that, I think what you're doing is you're really dehumanizing people, right? You're just dehumanizing. So are we ever going to be, or live past this? Are we ever going to get past this? Right? Talk about schizophrenic future. Look at my show. I jump around from topic to topic, but I understand where it comes from. I understand that by doing this, I can use this cognitive therapy and I could use it to my advantage, right? And that's what I'm hoping to do by living right here in California. I tell you guys everything. I tell you all about my life. But guess what? Some flatfoot can come up and say, okay, tell it to the judge, tell it to the doctor. When they melted my brain in 2018, I'll talk about that on my show anytime I feel like it. I'll talk about whatever I want anytime I feel like it. I don't care if my show's buried, and I don't care if I'm canceled. They melted my brain. And when they did, I went to the doctors. What did they do? They shot me up with drugs. They strapped me to a table, just like, oh, Michael Imperioli was talking about Lou Reed. How do you like that connection? What did they do to Lou Reed? They gave him shock therapy. And they're doing it through your device. Police officers have this ability, because my wife certainly did, and so did the phonies down at Gasoline Alley in the 04 era. That's why they used it on me. They can create criminals, make no mistake about it. So Michael Imperioli was talking about Lou Reed. I'm not a big Lou Reed fan. I did one drop off. He was talking about Gregory Corso as well. I know all about Gregory Corso. Everyone that he was talking about, I know exactly who he was talking about. There's not anybody that he was talking about that I don't know who they are. Sorry, I'll come on. I come in a little bit close because there's people around here. I don't want to, I got to project my voice. Right? And again, I did a drop off at Gregory Corso, a pickup and a drop off. And I did a pickup and a drop off at Laurie Anderson. And she married Lou Reed. They got married. Okay? And so don't forget that these guys were making films about, what was it? I Shot Andy Warhol. They were making all these films. I think that's where Michael Imperioli actually started dating Lily Taylor. I think that's how I knew that he started dating her. I knew all this stuff. I was seeing these films. I saw Michael Imperioli. He said he was doing a lot of independent films. I was doing a ton of independent films. I don't care what anybody's seen or what anybody hasn't seen. It's not my problem. I could care less. After I lived in New York and I was working as an actor, after I worked as a production assistant, I went out and I was never more happier just being an alcoholic and driving a pickup truck and doing construction. Like who? Like my father. I was living this life like my father. And I talk about that a lot on this show. Whether you like it or not, you do marry a person who's similar to your mother. You do have behaviors just like your father. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find the right behaviors. I'm trying to display the good behaviors from my father. Okay? Not the bad ones. So anyways, in case you don't know, in case you haven't figured it out already, I'm writing a television series that you will watch. It's called Linoleum Blown Apart. The only time you're going to see Napoleon, so this is what's great about Ridley Scott's project and Steven Spielberg's project. They're going to show Napoleon. They're going to put it in the zeitgeist. I call it the Yegiverse. What's the Yegiverse? It's the everything, the ionosphere. It's how you're getting Wi-Fi beamed to your phone. That's why we know this neurological weapon is not good. We don't want to be able to use this stuff. They're finding out, I read in Zero Hedge, that January 6th is the epiphany, which is what? The manifestation, which is what? All these guys are Fed rats. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They're all Feds. It was run by the Feds. It was run by the Feds and AI. I figured all this stuff out. I don't care about that stuff. What I care about is my project. I didn't care about the scuttlebutt. Arms away! I didn't care about the scuttlebutt in the Detroit punk rock scene. I cared about my band. I cared about my songs. That's what I cared about. And when I saw that nobody gave me any support or any appreciation, I left. And I'm a better man because of it. And you can use whatever neurological weapon you want. You can do whatever you want. Like I said. Ooh, excuse me. You better bury me first. Thank you very much for watching my show. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know.